Okay, hello. Welcome to Geek Bros Talk. It's a new video web podcast. This is gonna be our pod episode, and pretty much it's just two brothers geeking out, nerding out about latest news, trends, and just our general take and idea on things. So, you know, um, we're a little bit different in the fact that one of us isn't significantly older than the other, but he's my older brother, and he really inspired me into the tech world, and so growing up, I was always asking him questions about things like that, and 10, 15 years later, now here we are, pretty much in the same position. Anyway, so yeah, let's start this off. Some of the things we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about the new Microsoft Surface Pro 4 coming out and the Surface Book that was also announced. I want to go over some Black Friday, kind of just general deals, shopping, how to shop for deals. Uh, it's one of my hobbies, to be honest. Just being a consumer, trying to save quote unquote as much money as I can. And then along with that, so yeah, we'll talk about Black Friday, brick and mortar versus online. And then my brother wanted to go over some, I guess YouTube Red announced a new subscription-based model.
Yep.
We'll go over some internet device security things, and then last topic is going to be about esports and long-term careers. Especially with the League of Legends World Championship going on right now. Fifth
Yep.
year running, still going strong, still getting viewers, every year. And so yeah, there's a few of the topics we'll talk about. So let's start off with the Surface Pro, Surface Book. So some of you may know the Microsoft Surface is Microsoft's actual really first foray into the hardware world. They started off with the Microsoft Surface back in 2012, so it doesn't seem that long ago, but it kind of is. Their whole idea was to make a tablet laptop hybrid that would kind of eventually replace the laptop. I know a lot of people still have the kind of strong feelings that maybe it's not there yet, but with the latest iteration, it's almost there. What are your takes on that?
Well, for me, I understood the concept, but right now, or up to this point, I still don't get why not just buy a laptop, because it's extremely expensive when you look at the fact that you're buying a tablet. The actual keyboard itself is like $130, which isn't cheap. And then you have to buy this stylus pen. I can't remember how much that was, but for example, Apple's stylus pen for the new iPad Pro, it's like $100. So all of those things add up, and then what are you really getting out of it? That's still on my mind. In terms of like the new Surface Pro, I think it's the best one that they've ever made. I mean, it looks really solid. The hardware looks nice, and I like the back where when you flip it,
The kickstand?
yeah, it goes so many ways, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people don't get that when you're doing these hybrids. The kickstand is very important. It's very important, and this one you can actually prop it on your leg like a laptop, and it's not going to screw up. And I like the magnets that they have on the keyboard. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't fall easily. And finally, I think something that a lot of people don't think about, unless they're a heavy user or gamer, is the keyboards. It looks really nice. It's got a lot of reach, and I think it even lights up as well. So I don't think it's where it's at, and I think the reason why, to me personally, it's freaking expensive for that
Mm-hmm.
same money. I think the Surface Pro 4, you could go up to an edition that's over $2,000.
Yeah, so I believe the base model starts off around 900 sans a keyboard.
Yes. And even with that amount of power, which is a lot of power in a tablet, if
Mm-hmm.
you compare equivalent Ultrabooks at that same price, it's not as powerful. So if you get the Surface Pro 4, even the highest end model, you're still not going to be able to game like you do on a similar
Mm-hmm.
price Ultrabook. That's
Right.
so. I think it's the best version so far, but I still don't see the point of it at this price range.
Yes, I guess for you it's more the price factor. I mean, if you do compare it to other Ultrabooks, so I think the Surface Pro comes in at like around, I think less than a pound actually. So as far as like ultra portability goes, it's way up there. I know the Dell XPS 12 is coming out pretty soon, which is kind of like a almost direct competitor to the Surface. It's a tablet with a detachable keyboard, and it kind of
Yeah,
runs around the same price range. I mean, as far as Ultrabooks go, there's some older models you can definitely pick up for less than a grand, but even all the newer ones are kind of they hover maybe a little bit less than 1,000. So, I've been full discretion, I've been eyeing a Surface Pro for my next machine, and for me, the one I'm looking at is the $1,400 one with the i5 in it, the latest Intel Skylake. It's not really too far off for me because when I look at the other laptop offerings, I was even looking at a gaming laptop in a similar price range, but I guess for me, I already have a gaming desktop at home. I don't need to game on the go. For me, it's more about the ultra portability factor, and one of the biggest draws for me for the Surface Pro is the fact that I wouldn't actually buy the keyboard. I use a mechanical keyboard right here, and I actually carry that around with me everywhere. So even if I bought a laptop, I would still bring my mechanical keyboard around. And so for me, it's like, I don't really need that part of it. The more portable it can be, the better for me. And enough juice to do all my development with the latest i5 Skylake. I can pretty much throw any kind of processing development, anything with my programming, it'll run just fine. So, for me, that's, I think, the biggest draw.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, it's to me, it's always been about the price,
Hmm.
price. And the great thing that I do like about it, like I said, it's the best version that they have. Here's the big difference between that and Apple's iPro Pro 4. The iPad Pro 4, it's great, but you're not going to be able to do as much as you can
Hmm.
with because this is the full OS. So I
Hmm.
don't want to take the OS on something that's that expensive, you know. So that makes sense. If they were to bring the price down, if they were had like Surface Pro models or Surface models, were actually good models, you can actually do real work at around the starting at the $500 mark with as
Hmm.
close as possible. Maybe with these new cheaper, these new iterations of these Skyline processors, maybe they'll have lower versions, maybe then they'll be able to bring the price down. But to me, the main barrier right now is the price.
Hmm.
You know, I
I
still
guess,
like having it, but it's expensive.
yeah. So I guess for like the area I'm in and kind of like the line of work I'm in, pretty much like young programmer, a lot of these guys out here to have like the MacBook Pro 15s, which is at a comparable price, right? It starts around probably like 1,300 or, I guess it kind of hovers around like the mid, you know, 1,000 mark, so around 1,500. And then, comparative to that, like my friend has like a $2,000 MacBook. I'm like, whoa, you don't even need all of that. So uh, when I compare that to the Surface Pro, I'm like, yeah, it falls in line with Max Apple's offerings pretty much. So I don't really mind spending that much on a premium piece of hardware for me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, like for geeks, people who are into tech, they buy things for a different reason. They buy
Hmm.
for functionality, and they buy whether or not it fits their lifestyle. Go back to the functionality. Can I do what I need to do on it? They're more about that.
Hmm.
Whereas most mass consumers, they buy a Mac Pro because everybody else has a Mac Pro.
It's
But
their $1,000 Facebook machine, right?
exactly, I mean, they're basically just using it for the browser, which is a waste of money. And so I think that's what saying that because we're geeks, it's a waste
Hmm.
of money. Whereas if you're gonna buy a Surface Pro 4, you've already weighed out the usefulness versus the price. Whereas
Hmm.
most, as long as it has a nice logo, it has that branding, I'm gonna buy it, even though you're not gonna use it.
Hmm. Yeah, and I was strongly considering waiting until the XPS 12. It's been leaked, so it hasn't been officially announced yet, but some people are speculating it might come out, next month. So it'd probably be a little cheaper than the Surface Pro, but details aren't out yet. Um, so we'll see. I'm heavily considering it a Surface Pro 4. But yeah, just
Oh,
comparative to Apple, as far as like performance goes, it actually I think it edges out the MacBook Pro 13, but probably not quite on par for the 15. So, I mean, to be honest, in that price range, I think that's pretty good.
yeah, yeah. I definitely think the hardware is there in terms of
Hmm.
power. But I always, like I said, I think it always goes back to the price for performance ratio for this. But for this category where it's a tablet keyboard hybrid, and Apple's going to release theirs next year and it'll be
Hmm.
revolutionary, of course. Uh, but in this segment, there is no other better one than the Microsoft Pro 4. So, and
Hmm.
I did see that Dell XPS, the new one, it looked really cool.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
um,
Dell coming out with their new kind of screen technology. Like it's a lot really like edge to edge. So like the side bezels are super thin. So maybe just talking about it, we can't really appreciate it. But I think once you see it in person, I mean, hopefully it should look like really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
and some people forgot that Dell has been in a hardware game for a long time, and
mhm.
they don't own Alienware. They bought another
No, they own
IM.
Alienware.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
Okay,
they've owned it
okay,
for a long time now.
okay. Alienware. Okay, okay. I
Hmm.
couldn't. What was the other one? That was a long time ago.
Which one?
So
Voodoo?
Voodoo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think they're still independent. I don't think they're owned by anyone.
Okay, so great. Alienware. That's
Hmm.
high end. By the
Yeah,
way, Alienware just running SteamOS box.
yeah. I mean,
Alienware Alpha.
but Alienware, she talked to like true diehard, PC enthusiasts. Alienware is so overpriced. The cases are kind of gimmicky, like the whole gamer quote unquote sense. Um, I'm glad it's there. It's whatever gets people into PC gaming, I'm happy. But if you want to save quite a bit of money, you just build it yourself, definitely. As far as
Yeah,
setups go.
for a gamer, you're not going to buy a branded one anyway, even if it's a Falcon Northwest or a Alienware or
Hmm.
any of these. Build it yourself. You know, but that's a branding thing, right? But
Hmm.
I don't think they're crap.
No,
They're. I
just
mean,
a little
even the
pricey for what they are,
yeah,
comparatively
yeah,
to you build it yourself. But it's always been that way. It's always been that motto. There's definitely the market for people who don't want to bother bidding it themselves. So it's completely fine. But yeah, so not to sound like Apple haters or anything, we should probably talk about like why Apple has been doing so successful with their things. Like their hardware is solid. I mean, you gotta give them that at least.
yep.
Very very well built. The only thing you can really argue about is probably like detachable battery at this point. But I mean, I think hardware is still superb. Screen's so good. Resale value on it is actually quite good. So I noticed that when I was doing some development on my Windows machine, I was doing some Node.js development and using this thing called Node Package Manager, and on my friend's MacBook it just worked. Whereas me, I had to like install all this stuff, I had to upgrade my service patches, and then I ended up never getting it to work. So I guess as far as development wise goes, Macs are still pretty nice for that. It just works.
Yeah, I will say one thing. I mean, I've always been under this belief: Apple is number one in marketing. That's for sure. No company is better at marketing and branding than Apple. You
Hmm.
know. However, when you look at what they really have, I think first and foremost, their software is solid. You don't really buy hardware for the hardware. You buy it for the software.
Hmm.
It's about software. That's why people still prefer the stability and performance of iPhones versus Androids. Even though they're much more powerful.
Hmm.
Their hardware quality is good. The only thing that has always been to me as being like purely like from a geek standpoint, a tech standpoint, they're very limited. Things such as like micro SD. I mean, you would think that's a no-brainer. Things such as like, how come I can't move stuff over without using iTunes? Or how come I can't access device without an iTunes account? Things like that.
So you
That
gotta
just
buy into their ecosystem a little
you don't have
bit. Yeah.
you don't have a choice. But there definitely are benefits to it, and
Hmm.
you're right, it does work much better than Windows.
Hmm. Yeah, so I don't want to sound like we're just gonna hate on Apple all day. Just our personal preference. Maybe down the line I would try it out, but I mean, as far as the foreseeable future, probably not for the moment. But of
Yeah,
course, if they come out with something like super, like actually, sorry, it's actually game changing. It's a bit of a loaded bias there, but yeah, we'll
yeah,
see.
yeah.
We'll see what they come out with, and I'm not close to the idea, but just it's not for me right now.
Same here.
Yeah. And so I guess talking about other manufacturers, I mean we just go over this really quickly because I had a few notes on it. Did you ever see the Lenovo spyware issues?
Yeah, where they were shipping out their Lenovo tablets with injected spyware, and they really didn't make much
No,
money out
it
of
it
it.
wasn't. It wasn't just injected. So normally there's like a lot of bloatware installed on your Windows, on the actual OS installation. But Lenovo took it to the next level, and it was coming from their BIOS. So no matter how much you tried to get it, like no matter what installation you did, it was just coming
Yep.
straight from the BIOS, and that's like, man, that's super shady. I don't know about that one. So I mean, as far as their price hardware ratio goes, it's pretty good. They're actually like fairly cheap for what you get. But ever since seeing the whole spyware issue thing, it's kind of turned me off to Lenovo, and man, like I am straying away from them at least.
And unfortunately, as consumers, unless you're like you're really interested in tech and stuff, a lot of this stuff is going on without you knowing. I mean, people download, and just to get into my whole talk when we talk about internet security and stuff
Hmm.
like that, my security. So I want to talk about that later, but I had some thoughts on that too, and it's I don't like it.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, stuff like that when it finally comes out to consumers, it's already too late. You probably already shipped out millions of units, and millions, maybe upon millions of people have already had their information compromised. And there's no repercussions for it. Not a single one of those people are going to get money back.
I guess really
I doubt it.
the only really people affected is like the informed, right? So I guess like the little people who are a little more geeky or nerdier who understand like, oh man, the spyware is built into the BIOS, like you should stay away. I'm not sure how it's gonna affect the brand, on a normal consumer basis. But
Yeah, I don't
I
think
for one, I know a lot of people in like on the internet, and they're just kind of the backlash is actually pretty big for like the more well-informed people. And I think a lot of people are gonna be staying away from, not maybe a lot, but I guess the more well-informed people will probably be staying away from Lenovo for the foreseeable future now.
yeah, but I don't think it's going to affect their bottom line much. They're still like
Hmm.
top dogs when it comes to sales of computer devices. Their laptops and
Hmm.
stuff. And the majority of people are not that into tech. Most people don't even know what a BIOS is.
Hmm.
And so yeah, so I don't think it's going to affect them too much. And I think
Yeah.
for most people who are into geek and tech, they're not buying Lenovo tablets anyway, unless I mean Lenovo laptops anyway, because they're like maybe they're like throwaways that you could buy and give to your
Oh,
kids.
not necessarily. I know like within like the last 2 years, Lenovo made a pretty big push into better, uh, gaming hardware, kind of like, better video cards. So I think before, before the spyware thing, if someone were to ask me, what's a laptop that's a pretty good price, I can also play some games pretty decently, I would actually recommend Lenovo because just the hardware price point was excellent.
I
Um,
see.
but now not so much. Just with the whole spyware thing, I would tell my friends to kind of stay away from that. But yeah, anyways, I heard the trend of gaming laptops is kind of dying out, anyways, as desktop gaming becomes a little more prevalent now, which is pretty cool. Um, anyways, we can talk about that some other time. And the only other note I had was the Pixel C. So I haven't heard much about that. I'm sure you probably know a whole lot about that.
Yeah, Google's Pixel C
Hmm.
laptop, lablet. No, it's tablet.
Lablet.
Yeah, lablet, tablet keyboard hybrid. Google, say what you will, Google takes a lot of risks. They probably produce so many different software, so many different services, and now even before with the Pixel C, maybe even more earlier than that, the Nexus programs, they're making slowly but surely inroads into the hardware
Hmm.
business. And I think the Pixel C is just like, well, let me see how people gauge what consumers say about this, whether or not we can sell this, because they price it really high and it's very good quality material.
It's around
I
the
still,
500 mark, right?
yeah. It's not cheap. It's not cheap. I mean, me personally, I like the hardware, but at this point, I still don't, I still don't see the benefit of having a browser-based OS. I mean, that's changing as more and more stuff. I mean, Google knew this way ahead of time. More people use their browsers. So when Chrome OS first came out, I thought it was a stupid idea. Why would I pay this much money for just a browser? But now they knew ahead that more and more people are on their browser, and so it kind of makes sense. But I think for most geeks, to me, and people in tech, they're not going to buy the Pixel C. I mean, because you can't
Mhm.
really do much, especially at that price. It looks
I
cool though.
mean, you might be able to dual boot onto it. I know some Android tablets you can dual boot Ubuntu on there.
Yeah, but the thing I remember with the Chromebooks and Chrome OS,
Hmm.
you still have to fiddle with their BIOS as
Hmm.
well, to get it to work. And it's not like as easy as just like installing a Linux distro and then partitioning
Oh
it.
yeah, no, I know it's super niche and you have to do a little bit of hacking around to get it to work. And I'm just saying though, I mean, for those people out there, if they find the hardware and the
Which,
price point really appealing, then yeah,
I,
maybe.
I don't agree with. And I know Microsoft started this years ago where they would make it harder in their BIOS for you to install in its second OS.
Hmm.
Okay, and the whole rationale behind it, and there's been arguments on both sides, but the whole rationale was we want to make it more secure so you can't hack the BIOS. But in reality, it kept them dominant on that hardware. So you have the hardware, but you can't put another OS. And Chrome OS, the Chromebooks, I think they kind of do the same thing, which sucks. I mean, I'm like, you buy the hardware, but you don't own it. I can't even put an OS on it, which sucks. I still don't like that. So.
Yeah, I got my $50 tablet, and I was kind of excited because like, oh man, I could dual boot Ubuntu on this. That'd be pretty sick. And it turns out I can't. So yeah, it's all good though. I mean, for $50, I can't really complain about that.
But I think Google, they are heading in the right direction. And the Pixel C is kind of like perfect timing, because if you notice their newest Nexus phones, especially their Nexus 6P, Google is going to get into the hardware business hardcore next year. That's my prediction. And a lot of people don't realize this, but they are doing really well hardware-wise with the Chromecast. They sold like a million of those units. People don't realize that.
Yeah.
Google's already in the hardware game, and they own Nest as well. I mean, they're in it, and if you're a manufacturer and if you're using Android, or you kind of should be scared, and I think the other manufacturers already know that. But
and so when you said that Google does take a lot of risk, and I think some of like if they do happen to fail, on some risk, we don't really know about it, right? There's not like a lot of commotion or like, oh, this sucks or this is bad. It just kind of slowly dies out, right? Be it an app or hardware. I know, they released their own router recently too, right?
Well, which one? Which one was it?
I know it just came out. I know they want to kind of use it, like, maybe in their future road plans, it's kind of like their central part of their Internet of Things, right? So, the Internet of Things is where a lot of devices in your household will suddenly, be connected to one central part. You can control your lights, your music, or whatever. And I think Google's router was maybe like, not necessarily the forefront, but could become an integral part, once they start releasing more of those things, like the Internet of Things, connecting your home and making yourself a smart home. But I know, like, from a hardware perspective, the router wasn't the greatest, performance-wise or anything like that. And a lot of people were saying that it was kind of overpriced for what it was. And it wasn't really worth it at the moment to buy it. But maybe down the line it might be. And even then, right? So it's not necessarily like a spectacular success, but because I guess you've heard very little about it, but you never really heard about its shortcomings or its failure. It wasn't really making a splash for better or for worse.
Router, right?
Yeah.
Was it circular?
Yeah, it was like a cylinder shape.
Yeah. It reminded me of their last Google TV product. Oh crap, I can't remember the name, but that failed as well. It's just circular, and
I mean, we say it failed because we never heard from it again, but it never got like received negative backlash, right? Or no one was ever like downplaying, oh, Google can't do this or Google can't do that. It just slowly dies off, and we just forget about it.
Yeah, and Google's smart about that. And whenever they do have success with something, that's when they're gonna prop it up more. But the whole Internet of Things, I wanted to get into that too, because that has to do with my internet security.
Security, right? Yeah, maybe we should just talk about those things because it seems like just a natural segue, or
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so funny how a lot of things in tech, if you're into tech, if you're into geek, a lot of these things are all interrelated, which is kind of weird, but at the same time it's really cool, So
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we are talking about the big players here, so of course they own, a wide foray. Their portfolio is pretty wide, so I guess it's pretty easy to segue from one thing into another regarding like the same company.
So, you want to get into my part?
Yeah, definitely, we can go into that. So, let's see, you want to talk about the internet device security of things?
YouTube Red first, because
for sure.
Yeah, that was a pretty big thing this week. Well, at least big to the tech community. I think more people are going to hear about it. And if you're not familiar with YouTube Red, it's their new subscription service. It's $9.99 a month, and it'll be released on October 28th. So some of the things that you get out of it, you get offline play. So if you had a YouTube video, you wanted to watch it off the internet, you could just download it I don't know why they didn't get that option to begin with. They have another thing called background play. So you could be watching a YouTube video and the audio is still going, but you could still be using other apps or turn off your screen. And that's a great feature because a lot of people watch YouTube videos and they listen to it like an audio book. I do that
Or
all
are you
the time
talking on like cell phones and tablets and things like that, not necessarily your desktop?
because a lot of times you have to have, unless you download, different software to do it, you have
It's
to
in
have,
your foreground.
yeah, you have to have YouTube up in order to play it, right? But here they're going to allow you to play in the background, which is great. The audio, so you could still listen to,
Right. So it's kind of, I feel it's kind of funny. They could definitely have built that functionality in a long time ago, but now they choose. Now that you're part of their subscription model, now it's a feature, where
yeah,
it should have been there in the first place, really.
you could do that before. There were apps you could download. You could download
Hmm.
extensions, but it was a pain, and Google blocked some of them anyway.
Yeah,
And
I mean, designed by choice. So
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And like I said, Google is very smart. Now, another thing that it offers is whenever you sign up for the subscription service, you're also signed into the Google Play Music service, which I don't really use it, but who knows? That's part of
But
their
for
overall.
for existing subscribers for Google Music, this is definitely, a huge plus. It's just extra stuff for them. They're already paying the same amount monthly anyways, and now they have like all these extra features.
Yes, so that is a big plus for Google Music subscribers.
Hmm.
And the final thing, which is probably the biggest thing, is with this subscription service, you get no ads on the videos. Okay, and so
Which
all
you
of
could have
these things,
done already. I mean,
yeah, which
ad
is done with
block.
ads plugins, but like most people now, it's mainly I credit one company for it, and that's Netflix. Netflix
Mm,
where
right.
they really started the whole subscription model, getting
Mhm.
people to pay for this regularly. Now we have Amazon Prime. I mean, we have a lot of people paying for subscription services that they weren't before. And so this is this wouldn't be anything that would be like completely new to
Mhm.
consumers. They're like, I already have all these other subscription services that I'm paying for. You
Yeah,
know,
I know we've talked about this a little briefly before, but the whole rise of subscription and basically that people are willing to pay for convenience, rather than going out of their way to, do something or to do the process like the long and arduous way. Not only with Netflix, but I think the YouTube Red is really targeting and maybe got a lot of inspiration from Twitch TV actually. So
yeah,
Twitch TV is like the other big another large video content service, right? So basically it's just people playing games, whatever, streaming to other users. And I've seen a few other competitors in that area. Actually YouTube has their own. YouTube have like YouTube Gaming. There's another one
yeah.
called Hitbox TV. But if Google is trying to go after like that same share, but if you look at the numbers comparative, you know, uh, the most popular channel on YouTube live gaming to Twitch is like it's almost like 1,000 to 20,000 viewers. So I mean, it's been a while that YouTube's been really trying to get into the live streaming market, and I feel like the YouTube Red is kind of like maybe more of an effort to kind of penetrate that.
I think that gaming is definitely huge, but it's more of their overall big strategy, and this fits into everything that they're already doing. I mean, the whole Internet of Things, the whole Android program, the whole Google TV, them getting into hardware, them Google Fiber. They want to be a whole encompassing media company. They want to be a telecom company. Google is everywhere. And so this is a natural progression of that because I don't think there's a single area that Google is not in. They're everywhere. And I can't wait till Google Fiber comes here. But what that means is you're owned by Google. No matter what field, what category you're in, they're in it. And they're going to keep trying. They're not going to stop. I mean, I think they tried to buy Twitch at the beginning until Amazon outbid them, right?
Hmm.
They're not stopping. If they could, they're going to get in one way or another. Now, I think the Google Red, I'm sorry, the YouTube Red subscription service. I don't think it's worth it at $10 until there's more content that it makes you worth it, more services. And also another thing that they had on their policy is that if you are part of the YouTube Partner Program, and that really only covers the most popular channels, you must sign their RedTube. I'm sorry, their YouTube. Did I say RedTube? Their YouTube.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a way different website.
Oh, by the way, it's so funny that they sound the same. A part of that is if you don't sign up for YouTube Red, Google could actually make all your videos private, which basically means all your videos are going to be gone from YouTube, which is like crazy. And right now they're saying this doesn't affect 99% of the users. Great, but that's not going to stop them from doing this in the future. And so that's the part that I'm kind of wary of. I mean, now they're going to exert more control over your content, over what you can produce, because if you don't follow their policies, all your videos are gone. And so that's okay if, like, for us, we're just barely starting a channel. But what if you were like been there for like since the beginning,
Established. Yeah.
established, and that's how you make your living? Wow, I'm it reminds me of
But
Google Plus, except a lot worse.
but it's been really subtle, like subtly happening, like auto music infringement or like, taking down videos on DMCA notices. They have a system now that automatically detects if you have like some copyrighted music and they can automatically block your channel. And then there's the whole, I guess the three strike policy or whatever. So, Google's been locking it down for a while. It's been very slowly and maybe it's been pretty like subtle and not a lot of people notice it, but
Yeah,
you
and
can't really say that it's something new because it's been happening.
no, it's not, but only if you're into this stuff. You
Hmm.
know, what it does is it sets a precedence for the future because all these videos that we're producing, we don't know it yet, or maybe mass consumers don't. But like more and more people are going to be watching this stuff on so many devices, on TVs, on tablets, on phones. So the content that we produce, Google is getting content for next to nothing, for free. Pretty much. I mean, even though their payouts are pretty big for some of their top ones, if you look at it, it's not much. And so they're getting free content. Nobody has more content than YouTube on the web, period. And so you can imagine when they start meshing this all together with their Google Fiber, which has cable services, their hardware products all together, it's everywhere. And by that time, your content will be pretty much owned by YouTube. Unless there's another competitor that comes up, which I don't think there will be. Vimeo might be if Facebook buys them. Who knows? Facebook video, I don't know. But there is no competitor. Twitch would be the only other competitor, but they're focused on gaming, but
Hmm.
not like videos in general. There's nobody bigger than YouTube. So um, that's my thoughts on that. I mean, did you have any other thoughts on the YouTube Red?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think like their subscription model is really coming directly off of Twitch because Twitch also has a subscription model where, your favorite streamers, you subscribe to them, you get no ads, you get special privileges in chat. Um, yeah, and to me, I guess YouTube's just seeing like how Twitch exploded, and how popular it got, and they're like, oh, maybe we can do that as well. But, I think they're a little slow to the game. So we'll see how YouTube Red comes out. I mean, to me, the biggest benefit is that if you already have Google Music, then bam, you have YouTube Red. The only thing that seems kind of iffy to me is that they are starting to lock things down and kind of, force you to really follow their policy, follow their way. Like you have to be part of this if you want to see this, or they just make it harder and they just kind of increase the barrier of entry. And one of the things that made YouTube great was that originally there was no barrier to entry. Anyone could upload a video, and that's why it just blew up. But now, as we see, I guess in their efforts to monetize everything, like you said, the importance of user-generated content. We'll see how it goes. To be honest, I don't like the direction it's going in right now, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I think kind of like the Google Plus fiasco. If you
Hmm.
keep doing stuff that pisses off the people who are producing content,
Hmm.
another another platform will have an
Just
opportunity to
come in
come
and
up.
swoop them up. Yeah. I guess another thing with YouTube Red, I wonder if it'll convert any Spotify users at all. Because it seems like the YouTube Red is not only music, but it's not only video, but it's music as well. And so maybe they're trying to do a two for one. You get double your value for the same amount of money, right?
Yeah, and I
So.
think is doing that not really in response to Spotify, but
Mhm.
the new music subscription service that took already 1.3 million customers away from Pandora.
Mhm.
That's just barely started. I think that's more anticipating that than it is Spotify. Not to say Spotify isn't popular.
Mhm. But I'm just saying, in the grand scheme of things, it feels like YouTube's a little late to both video and music subscription. So we'll see how it pans out.
We'll see.
Um, I'm hoping that it doesn't really take off, to be honest, because the more competition, the better, right?
Yeah,
So,
and yeah, I think Google as a company with all their properties, they're most people are known or like think of them as like free stuff. They give a lot of
mhm,
stuff free away, but now they're converting to the monetization model that you were talking about, and a
mhm.
lot of people are not used to that. They're not used to paying for Google services. So we'll see how it goes. I hope it goes well, but I don't know. I keep thinking about that policy with every
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah, I'm on the opposite fence. I hope I really like Spotify's service. I don't subscribe to it personally, but you know, for me, as long as there's choice, that's good. So,
Yeah. Um, okay, so this leads me to the second subject. We touched on this before. Security on the internet and devices. I want to talk about briefly about what's going on the internet because security is a big thing, but when you look at it, it doesn't seem like it's a big thing for the people who manage your data. Just this week alone, the director of the CIA, he had his email hacked, his AOL email, which
whoa, 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 AOL. Hold on. What year is it?
which is embarrassing. He got hacked supposedly by a high schooler, and the high schooler also claims to have hacked Donald Trump's email and Hillary Clinton's email. I don't care too much about those other emails, but the director of the CIA, his email got hacked. The CIA, that's bad. And worse than that is something that happened in the UK. TalkTalk, one of the telecoms they provide a phone and internet service. Uh, TalkTalk UK had their systems compromised again, and they lost millions of accounts. And the worst part of it was a lot of people, well, a larger percentage than usual, they got their personal information, these hackers, and they pretty much wiped out some people's life savings. I mean, that's some serious stuff, you know. And that's just on the internet, and we hear about hacks every single week. I mean, I think a few weeks ago, about a month ago, Experian, one of the largest credit monitoring companies in the world, lost over 11 million accounts and T-Mobile customer accounts. And then Scott Trade got hacked. I mean, these are big, big companies, and I don't think the people who hold the data they're doing enough. I mean, like I got my account hacked personally from one of these services. It's actually the T-Mobile stuff and or Experian. And usually, when your account gets hacked, all these companies do, they will provide you a free credit monitoring services for a year through the same people who actually got their accounts hacked. And normally it's free, but only for a year. Then after that, then you have to pay for their service. And now they have your personal information. And so they don't do anything. And especially, what if your identity then you did some really bad stuff with it, like they ran up your credit cards or they flushed out your bank accounts. These companies, these people who hold your data, do nothing for you. So you're kind of left like SOL. And okay, there's a difference between when these accounts get hacked. Okay, you almost in a lot of cases you willingly let them do that. Okay, but in some cases you didn't. Like, for example, last year when we had that U.S. government hack, I think the Department of Personnel had over 20 million accounts get hacked. Right? That was nothing that you had control over. Or even the recent Experian one, they did credit checks, but you don't have control over that. So, what do you think about that? Oh, I mean, I just feel like they're not doing anything to help or even
Yeah.
to secure.
So I guess for a lot of people, they don't really realize until it hits close to home, right? Um,
Yeah,
and I feel like in this day of age, for a lot of consumers, could possibly like too far gone just because we have so many different accounts all across the place, and like as an average consumer, how do you protect yourself, right? Now that we have like, so many accounts that we can't even keep track of, the things we signed up before that we no longer remember we signed up for, right?
yeah,
And so, yeah, definitely. I mean, the only thing you can really do is going forward on how to, continually protect our data. I guess from like the company, like a big company standpoint, yeah, it's important, but maybe they don't realize how important until, worst case scenario, they get hacked, right? And then they start to invest more into it. So, you know, for me, it's really hard to say or comment just because, I mean, what can we do now? Like, what can we do to, further safeguard or further protect ourselves, be it from signing up less, or how do we already safeguard our existing accounts and things like that?
I think because of what's going on, people are going to have to become more security conscious, even more than before. Before it was passwords and stuff, but passwords are going away. I think the only way, basically, because a lot of things we can't control anymore. You can't control where your public information is being put. Like, for example, if you were to buy a house, that's on the public information. It's out there, and it's going to be on a server somewhere. You have no control over that. Or even if you're renting an apartment or getting your credit check, you have no control over that. But the stuff that you do have control over, let's just say your computer, your tablet, or your phone, a lot of these devices have options to encrypt the whole thing. So that will add an extra layer of security, even if you do physically lose it, they can't get into your information. So, which leads me to the internet security. I'm sorry, the security of devices. The Internet of Things, and even not Internet of Things. A lot of our homes now, a lot of our lives, we have so many devices now. I mean, not only just our phones, tablets, but our routers. Most people don't think about that. Your routers run an operating system. Your microwaves, your refrigerator, they all talk to each other. So that's great and all, but what happens when it gets hacked? People don't think about that. Just recently, some researchers hacked CCTV, and that's a closed circuit TV. Those cameras that you see that do security, they got hacked. And so that's scary. Now, and most of these Internet of Things devices, I'm a Linux lover myself. I love Linux. One of the things that Linux always touts is security, which is true. I mean, Linux, as in general, it is more secure than most other OS, especially Windows. But any piece of software can get hacked. And the place where security is most lax is on the Internet of Things, including routers, and a lot of them run Linux, just like this closed circuit TV. And so once our homes become more interconnected, I mean, there were researchers who hacked into a house across the U.S. and their home was hacked, and so they could turn their lights on and off. And so that might be funny, but what happens if they lock you out of your house, or you're locked in your house, and they turn the temperature way up, and you have kids or something in there, you could potentially die. So things like serious like that, it can happen. And especially now we're getting into automated cars, the AI, all of it runs on some type of OS. It's scary to me. I mean, I don't want to sound like a really paranoid.
Slippery slope.
Yeah, it's what happens when that happens, when your toaster gets hacked and then it's talking to your car.
My toaster talking to my car. I wonder what kind of conversation they would have. Anyways, yeah, I understand your point, and I think the people who are doing the whole Internet of Things and realize that all of our devices will soon become interconnected, I'm sure they're gonna take security into consideration, like definitely. To me, I guess a lot of problem is for maybe older, bigger companies without that mentality, who never really had to worry about security in the first place, and
like the government.
Yeah, the government, or even like whenever OnStar got hacked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe just like some of these older, bigger companies to just look over it, just because it wasn't important before, it doesn't need to be important now. We don't, you know, try to save and do those cost-cutting measures. We don't need to invest heavily in security. No one's ever going to do it. It's not the fact that no one can't do it. It's just no one ever tried to do it.
And I think the only way these companies or these data providers are going to take it more seriously is when they start losing money and when all the lawsuits.
Exactly, right.
They had 8 million of their employees' accounts get hacked. Now they have to pay them.
Mm-hmm. And so maybe for a period in time, we just have to let some companies learn the hard way, which is terrible to say, because we don't want to. Obviously, we don't want to be customers of those companies where it happens to us. But hopefully, all we can do for as consumers be a lot more vigilant about it, and hopefully that the companies who do make everything more interconnected also realize that same potential pitfall.
Yeah, I'm hoping that as well. I mean, one thing that I never understood. I mean, I still don't understand it. How can these hackers, most of them are script kiddies, but the really good ones, they'd be so much better than all these government and all these big companies, especially technology companies. they're better. I mean,
Hmm.
they're just getting hacked left and right, and they make it seem so easy. How can
Yeah.
you not be
So
better than
and
me?
and that's just kind of like a paradigm in coding itself is you can often anticipate what you want to do, but you can't really anticipate what's actually going to happen, right? So as far as like software or security in general goes, like yeah, you can try to think of what's going to happen, but you can't ever necessarily predict everything that's going to happen or every possible way that can happen. So for these hackers and things like that, it's not that the people didn't try to do security, it's just that the hacker found a way that the other people didn't think of, and
Yeah,
generally it's just extremely hard to safeguard against all possible cases. It's impossible to do against all possible cases. And so, the only thing we can really do is just uh, become more aware of like common techniques or like you have to be like on top of things like when something new comes out or some new exploit comes out, like you have to patch it extremely quickly, or you just have to learn. It's like a continual thing for security, I think, because you can't ever just make something unhackable.
yeah,
It's just
right.
impossible.
No,
Someone's gonna find a way. It's always gonna. So I would say both sides evolve, right? So the side of like the people writing security software will evolve, but then the hackers will also evolve as well because they'll just find new ways. And
yeah,
it's always gonna be, I think, a constant struggle. The only thing we can hope for is that our security software is on average better than the average hacker. But I don't think it would ever be one way or the other completely.
right. I
Hopefully.
can't agree with you that.
Yeah.
You know what? Speaking of hardware, I had one more subject, esports and gaming, but my phone is overheating, and so it's about to shut off.
Uh,
So yeah, I'm done. Maybe I definitely want to talk about esports on the next episode because I think
mm,
that's a trend that's not going to stop. It's not going to be a trend. It's going to be.
mhm.
I think there's a lot of thoughts on that,
Yeah,
esports and
yeah.
gaming.
Lucky for us, yeah. I think the League of Legends World Championship should end by next week, so we can definitely delve into that as well.
Yeah,
Um,
KT, Korea, they're going to come out on top. They're undefeated.
yeah, we'll see. It's probably gonna be Korea. But that's not surprising to anyone really. Yeah. So the only other topic we didn't really cover was kind of like I guess Black Fridays and deals in general, and that really didn't segue from any of our previous topics, so we can definitely talk about that next week as well. But yeah, okay. So with that, hope you guys enjoyed our conversation, our topics. Let us know what we can do better. Tell my brother to get a better internet connection, an actual internet connection. And yeah, if you have any suggestions for us, topics you want to talk about, tell us what you like, subscribe, like, comment, do your thing. You know it, we know it. And so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed our very first episode of Geek Bros Talk, and hope you listen to many more to come. All right. Yeah. Thanks, guys. See you next week. Later.